Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, February 12th meeting of the Bennington Select Board. We are at the Bennington Fire Facility in the multi-purpose room on the 3rd floor. Happy to see so many people here tonight. My name is Tom Haley. I will be chairing this meeting this evening as Jeannie couldn't make it for personal reasons. I will now ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves, starting with Gary.
Hi, I'm Gary Corey.
Good evening, I'm Jim Carroll.
I'm Jean Connor.
I'm Ed Woods.
Also with us are Nancy Lively, who I'm told takes excellent minutes. We have Town Communications Coordinator Jonah Spivak, Town Manager Stuart Hurd, and Josh Boucher, who is making sure everything runs smoothly for Cat TV. Hi, Mom. We'll begin this evening, as we do every week, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Jim?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And I didn't ask her ahead of time, but she's had plenty of practice. Jean, would you like to share the town vision statement, which guides our work?
Where is it, though? Here we go. I should have it memorized, shouldn't I? But I don't. Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next, we have the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of January 13 and January 22nd, the warrants, and liquor licenses. For the purpose of discussion, could I have a motion to accept?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Jean?
I just want to make sure everyone saw the additional liquor licenses that came in. Okay.
Anything else, anyone? All right, so all in favor of accepting the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have public comment. We have a few people that want to talk this evening. So I'll remind everyone that public comment is a time to share things with your community that may be of interest and are not covered on the agenda already. We'll ask you to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Is it 5? 3, I'm sorry, 3 minutes or less. Ed will be our timekeeper, and he'll give you a warning at 1 minute. First, we'll start with Clark Adams, who has a question.
Good evening. Good evening. Again, Clark Adams of Bennington. Don't anticipate either of those changing. My question, I guess, could maybe two parts. A few years ago, folks here in Bennington may be aware that we voted on the options tax for this community. And I understand that was overwhelmingly defeated, that the people of Bennington did not want this tax enacted. Correct me if I'm mistaken. Since then, it's been brought to my attention that House Bill 802, which is pending up in Montpelier, is a bill that will permit select boards to unilaterally impose that tax on their community. My question to the select board is, well, twofold. Are you folks aware of this bill? And do you, or are each of you willing to stand in public and say you do or do not support the idea of a bill being processed against the spoken will of the electors in this community? Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. Next up, we have Mike, is it Lemire? On question 2.
Thank you. My name is Mike Lemire, resident of Bennington. I have a couple of concerns. Number one, the skate park that is going in, was it ever considered to put this at the rec center to consolidate everything? And along with the skate park, is there going to be supervision to enforce safety equipment? Because I see all kinds of kids riding around Bennington, no helmets on. And I can just see it now. Some kid's going to show up at the skate park with no safety gear at all, and he's going to get injured. Okay. Also, are they going to have any type of facilities as far as a building with a restroom or any of that there? Or does the town of Bennington plan on putting porta potties? Okay. My other concern is when the Ben High project goes through, they're going to have child care up there. You're going to have one big traffic mess because most of these kids that are going to get dropped off for child care cannot walk in on their own. And if they're going to have 100 and some odd kids up there, where is everybody going to park to drop and pick off their kids? Because in a prior select board meeting, it stated how many parking places they're going to have up there for the housing. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll remind everyone that we will answer whatever questions are deemed appropriate at the end of public comment. Next, we have Kelly Carroll, wants to talk about the Riverwalk.
Hi, Kelly Carroll from Bennington. I just wanted to invite the community to the monthly Walloomsac Riverwalk. It's happening this Saturday at 10 a.m. That's February 17th. It starts at Rotary People's Park. And this month, we're going to highlight our 8th unsung hero. And this month, it's going out to a couple. So for those of you who know Cindy and Marsh Hudson Knapp, please join us to congratulate them for all of the great work they do around the community. They're members of the Bennington Rotary and Interfaith Council. They have participated in the waste diversion efforts from Garlic Town. They participate in the South Shire Window Dressers Program, and they volunteer at the Sunday Supper Program. So please join us in celebrating them. And in addition to that, we have also invited all of the candidates for the Select Board and the School Board that are seeking office on the March 5th elections. So this is an opportunity for you to come and meet with them one-on-one, walk with them. The walk starts at 10 o'clock. If you're not up to walking, we will end at the VFW for some refreshments and more conversation, and we'll probably be there about 10:15, quarter after. So please join us there. Again, it's your opportunity to get involved, to meet these candidates, to ask them your questions and what's important to you. So we hope to see you there, and thank you very much.
Actually, Kelly, you guys might as well stay, because I now have Kelly and Walt Carroll along with the VFW riders who want to talk about, does this say Mullet Fest?
It does. It says,
Okay.
Yeah, we just wanted to make the community aware to save the date of Friday, April 12th. We're going to do our second annual murder mystery game at the VFW, and this year's game is called Mullet Fest. And the proceeds for that are going to benefit the new K-9 team that fundraising for the Bennington Police Department. So there will be more information coming out in the next week or so. Tickets will be going on sale. The tickets will be $25. They'll be on sale for VFW members for the first week or so, and then in early March, they'll be available to the public. So come on down and join us. Let us know if you want to be a character. If you want to play one of the characters in the game, you're welcome to. And if you just want to come and observe the game and make a guess and see who you think did it, join us, because the person who is the the unfortunate victim and the perpetrator are not known to each other until the game is actually happening. So it's an opportunity to have a lot of fun, do some networking, meet some people that maybe you haven't met before, and donate to a good cause. So again, Friday, April 12th, 5 p.m. The game starts at 6. Tickets will go on sale to the public early March. Please save the date and help support the cause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Nancy White, who wants to talk about voting.
Nancy White, Bennington. I have 2 issues for voting. In Vermont, it is the citizens who vote to decide if they want their village, cities, or towns to have local options taxes. A few years ago, the citizens of Bennington voted overwhelmingly. We did not want any of the 4 options tax, and none of the votes were even close. I question why over the past month the Select Board has not placed on their agenda discussion about the fact that Jim Carroll entered a bill in Montpelier that will take away the rights and voices of Vermonters to vote to decide, and instead only let the local select boards to do this. So we should have had a discussion about this. Second, the Ben High contract. You authorized you and Chris Gilbert to sign it 2 years ago. Your contract said he's going to get paid $1.1 in the senior center building. Your contract has always said Bennington voters have the right to decide whether or not he gets the senior center building, and I have a copy of it right here. We went out and got 500 signatures in September to get that on the ballot. You voted to change your contract, I believe, in November. Does that contract now say the voters, if we don't give him the building next month, that the town of Bennington is going to pay him $400,000? If it does, where will the money come from? You do not have voter approval to give Chris Gilbert $400,000 of our money. We in Bennington have never agreed to pay anything for the Ben High, and the contract has never said that unless you voted to change it in November.
Thank you, Nancy. And finally, we have Bridget Elder to speak on dental care.
Hi, Bridget Elder, resident of Bennington. First of all, I wanted to thank the Select Board. I know you do a lot of work, and it really is appreciated. I know you probably don't hear that often, but you should be commended. I wanted to talk about dental care. I was horrified to read in the Manchester Journal about the state of children's teeth in Manchester, Arlington. I'm wondering if we have a similar problem here in Bennington. I know this is an unpopular subject, but I grew up in a country without fluoride in the water. I know there are issues about fluoride is not perfect, but if there is a problem in Bennington, I hope that we try and do something about it, because I know we don't have fluoride in the water here. Is that correct? And it's continuously voted nixed, right? So maybe some other solutions if there is this problem. But this was just because it was a group that was doing funding for Manchester. But if the problem is in Manchester and Arlington, and Manchester does not use fluoride in the water, the problem is probably here in Bennington, and there are a lot of socioeconomic repercussions for those kids as they get older. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. In regards to the local option tax question, I have not read that bill. I don't know if anyone here has read it, and I just don't know that it would be appropriate.
I did submit a bill that would allow the entire state, if they'd like, to have an option tax. And my motivation with the option tax is born out of frustration, because Bennington is a hub. We get people from New York, Hoosick Falls, Cambridge, Shaftesbury, Woodford, Pownell, who come and use our infrastructure, and we the taxpayers are carrying that burden. We get nothing for it. And I think it's fair that, the distribution ought to be shared with people who shop here and use our infrastructure, not only our roads, but police and fire and rescue when needed, and the people of Bennington are paying for it. Nevertheless, with respect to the bill, I spoke to the chairman of government ops, and they're not going to take up the bill, period. So it's a dead issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Mr. Lemire, in regards to your questions about the skate park, I think pretty much everything you asked about was covered in previous presentations to this board, all of which can be found on the town website. In regards to the question about Ben High, parking and so forth,
Well, yes, there is a plan on the part of the Y when Ben High is completed to offer childcare in the basement of the current Ben High building. There is if you've seen the original design, there is a drop-off area where parents would be able to drop off their kids, not only for the childcare, but also for other programs that people might be utilizing. So I don't believe it's a parking issue that's going to be created. There may be at times a traffic congestion issue within the parking lot, but the childcare is set up really to allow parents to drop their children off and come and pick them up. It's not going to be parking all day. To address other issues of parking, we also have a secondary site that is available to us up next to where the former Stewart's, that should additional parking be necessary, we can access that property for additional parking.
thanks. And I think, again, the questions on the Ben High contract have been covered pretty well by this board, and most of that information should also be available on the town's website. Did anyone else want to comment but that didn't have the moment to sign up? All right.
Tom, the $400,000?
We did vote to amend the contract, I believe is the correct language.
In a public meeting.
In a very public meeting.
Yes. And those funds, should the town have to, the question is whether or not the voters will approve the town transacting the building to Mr. Gilbert, or whether or not, and that's really the question that's before us in the vote. So if the vote is yes, then the town will simply transfer the building to Mr. Gilbert. If the answer is no, then the town will have to look to some other entity to be able to transact the sale of that building, because the building will be empty once the Ben High project is completed and open to us. So it's not a question of paying Mr. Gilbert $400,000 at this point, but should that entity, whoever it becomes, we have sufficient funds, we believe, available to us to meet any obligation that's created by that vote.
Thank you, Stu.
Excuse me.
Nancy, we're not having a discussion.
No,
I'm sorry.
I asked the question when it was on the agenda. I said, who will pay him the $400,000?
Nancy, we're not having a discussion. Thank you.
Public comment isn't a back and forth period of time. It will be on the agenda again, I'm sure.
It was on your agenda in November, and you wouldn't
Nancy.
answer my questions.
Nancy, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have Jason Dolmesh from MSK Engineering, who's going to provide us with an update on lead line replacements in town.
Good evening. My name is Jason Dolmich. I'm with MSK Engineers, and I'm just here to give a brief update on the ongoing lead service line identification and replacement project for the town of Bennington. So just as a reminder, In case anybody hasn't been paying attention, the town of Bennington started in 2017 by doing a service line inventory to identify potential areas of lead service lines. And since subsequently, then later out of that effort, received approximately $11 million grant equivalent from Water Infrastructure Division to identify and replace lead service lines in the town, we have been ongoing under that process for this entire period of time, and we're in our third construction season for lead service line replacement so far. To date, out of the approximately 4,200 service lines that are in the town of Bennington, we have identified 79 of them. They've been classified. With remaining 5% expecting test digs. So we're nearing 85%. We've got about a 7% non-return rate on sample kits. And for anybody who has participated in the sampling process, it's either a one-part or a two-part process. So sometimes you end up in the program with the first kit, and other times you have to go through and do the second kit. And then lastly, we have about a 9% non-responsive rate. And of course, I made this slide on Friday, but we've since had an update. We've been going through and working with reaching out to the remaining landowners that are not there, and we've reduced our unknowns with requirements for sampling kits and inspections to 237 and 278. So we continue to chip away at this project. But our goal right now, particularly since the town has funding, is 100% response rate. And the reason why we really need 100% participation all the way through the process, either to identify a line as not lead or to identify a line as lead and to replace it, is that there are rule changes going into effect that require identified lead service lines to be removed from the system in 10 years at an average removal rate of 10%. And that's without respect to any potential funding. So based on our understanding of the rule revisions, lead service lines would be required to be removed, and there's no obligation on the side of the municipality at the time to pay for the customer-owned service line portion of it. And we currently have our funding that we have expires in June, but we are looking at a 3-year extension with the state to finish out the funding that we have allocated for the town for this project. But we really need 100% responsiveness in order to really both protect the public health, i.e. remove lead service lines that are lead-containing service lines from to limit the source of lead in drinking water, and also to limit the municipality's regulatory risk of being out of compliance with the lead and copper rule. We really just have, as I mentioned, we have a regulatory and a public health risk, and we now have a deadline for when that has to be out. And right now, there's funding available for it. So in short, we have made significant progress since the beginning of the project. We really are, we're currently doing another round of outreach to the remaining units that are identified as unknown in the town, but we're also beginning to contemplate essentially requesting the select board to contemplate a municipal ordinance obliging participation in the project, so that the funds that are available can be used at no cost to the landowner. And I think the major change for us in this thinking is that prior to Prior to the new rule coming out, there really was not a regulatory stick associated with a deadline for removal of lead service line. But at this point, we're going to, in 10 years, those service lines will have to be out regardless of whether there's money or not. And so that's really the change at this point that we're asking people to consider. We're going to be pushed into this condition. We have money for it now, and we're asking for voluntary participation, but we're also asking the Select Board to begin consideration of an ordinance. So with that, I'm going to complete my presentation and answer any questions if you have it.
Any questions from the board?
Tom, could I follow up on that?
Sure, Stu.
And Jason really hasn't really made it entirely clear, but we have 2 individuals from MSK and 2 town employees. We are going door to door, talking to the people that are available to us, leaving notes and signs on the door for the people who are not at home, to try to get people to cooperate with us. And the first step is a visit to the basement to see whether or not there are lead lines. And if there are identified, that's all you have to do, because we're going to take care of you. If there aren't, it's not obvious, then I think the test kits become important. But for the folks out there, please, this is an opportunity for you to be drinking safe water in your home. And please don't allow it to pass, because in the end, either the town or the federal government will be looking to you to replace your lead service line in the future. And this is an incredible opportunity for us. Bennington has been extremely fortunate to be the first town in Vermont to have access to over $10 million of federal monies to complete this project. And so as your manager, I'm begging you to please cooperate with us. Do not refuse, because it will only, in the end, hurt you. And now, board questions.
Yeah, I'd just like to make one important point. For those people who haven't had this repair done, in the final analysis, if you don't have it done, it's going to diminish your property value. And some people may just decide not to buy at all. Thank you.
Gary, did you have a question?
No, he answered it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say something. We participated, and it was found we did not need have a lead line, so we don't need to have it replaced. And I have the documentation to prove that when we go to sell our house, that we do not have, the next owner of our home doesn't have to worry about that. So there is a benefit beyond a health benefit, which, that's extremely important, obviously, but as a responsible homeowner, protecting your asset is something to think about too.
Absolutely.
Jason,
It also protects you from dementia. So there's that
true.
too.
Yeah.
what can folks do who are listening tonight and who don't know whether or not they're in those percentages of unresponsive, or they know that they haven't connected yet? What can they do?
They can reach out to our office. We did put out a press release that has a number. We've actually switched over to having a dedicated staff member answering phones and scheduling appointments. If you're in the unknown list, if you're in the non-responsive list, there's also we essentially have broken it up into about 200 unit buckets of units where, as Stu mentioned, a combination of town DPW staff and our staff are making site visits to those individuals' doors to try to get additional engagement. So there's ample opportunity. I believe we also have information up on the website. You can also, if for some reason you don't have website access, you can certainly call the town offices. They know our direct line, and as I mentioned, we do have a dedicated staff member who can engage with you. I understand. I think one of the only other things I'll say is I think, from our perspective, this is a relatively highly engaged process. If it's not obvious that you have a lead line, we're asking you to do multiple steps. We understand you all have busy lives, and that this can be somewhat of a burden because we're asking you to fill sample bottles sometimes when we're not there. So we appreciate the time that you put into it, but ultimately it'll be to everybody's benefit, including yourself, to finish and participate in the program.
And Jason, what happens if you identify a home that hasn't been contacted and that place is vacant? How are we dealing with that?
Vacant, that's a great question, Tom. That's the I'm not ready to answer that question. We have identified, part of our process is identifying vacant or abandoned homes, and we're essentially referring that back to the town so that those can be dealt with.
And we will.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Do you, to encourage people to let the state pay for this for them, do you have an estimate on what it would cost for a homeowner to replace their lead line if they had to?
Yeah, I'm going to just pull, I'm not that close to the numbers. It's a great question. It's one of those things I was furiously trying to, I was like, how many, somebody's going to ask me how many lead service lines have been replaced, so I got that number, but I haven't actually been watching the cost averaging, but depending on the line length, depending on how much of the street you're going to be digging up, you're probably looking somewhere between $8,000 and $14,000 for an average line, so it's not inexpensive.
And that's now, that's not 10 years from now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's today's dollars.
Any questions from the audience? All right. Seeing none, Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Answer those letters. Next up, we have Shannon Barsati with a resolution around Shire's recovery housing.
Good evening, everyone. So I don't have a presentation tonight. This is just a couple of procedural votes for Vermont Community Development Program funding. In particular, the Vermont Community Development Program has offered the grant agreement to the town for $700,000 to be sub-granted to Shire's Housing for the Squire Recovery House project. So we've talked about that, and you've heard a lot about the Recovery House projects early in the process. So that project, the Squire House on North Street, is for women and children. It's in construction right now, and these funds will be essentially reimburse Shires for all the work that they're doing now. So, we've gotten to the grant agreement piece. I was here asking for the approval before the application, and now we're ready to execute the grant agreement. And so I attached that resolution to your packet. Also, the Vermont Community Development Program has recently updated their municipal policies and codes. So at the very end of those codes is the new update, and it was related to some changes in the Violence Against Women Act in 2022. So essentially, these are just the policies that both the state and towns follow, related to federal policy, such as fair housing, equal opportunity, et cetera. So that just needs to be signed off by the select board in order to continue to receive funding from the community development program. But I also want to take this opportunity because Kate Cooper came today, and she's the new Housing Development Director for Shire's Housing. So I thought I would just introduce Kate quickly, and she can just give a quick update on the Squire House project.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm Kate Cooper, and I am the new Housing Development Director at Shires, as Shannon said. I'm really excited about this project because it is bringing a pretty novel form of affordable housing to address an urgent need that we have in our community. This is one of the earliest such projects in the state, at Squire House, we're rehabilitating and retrofitting this beautiful historic house. If you haven't been down, it's worth a visit. It's really beautiful inside. We're doing this project in coordination with Mission City Church and V4, which is the Vermont Foundation of Recovery. The project will provide 3 units of recovery housing with 6 bedrooms for women and children. Women with dependent children. Shires is the developer, and we are in a limited partnership with V4. We will ultimately own and maintain the property. We do own it. We will maintain it. The building will be designated to meet the programmatic needs of Mission City Church and V4. and we have a master lease agreement in place with them. The beneficiaries of this project, as I mentioned, will be women recovering from substance use disorders, including women with dependent children. Currently, there are no recovery residences anywhere in Bennington County, with the nearest being in Brattleboro or Rutland. So this is providing an incredibly important service to people in need who will have the community right outside their door. So I'm really proud of this work, and thank you for your support. We're looking to be done and hopefully have a ribbon cutting in June.
Yay. So that's exciting. And as part of this process, at the end of the construction and once the Squire House is open, we'll also do a final public meeting. So we'll have some nice kind of before and after photos of the project too. So tonight we're just looking for a vote to accept the resolution and the grant agreement, and also the updated municipal policies.
Okay. Do we need to take these one at a time, or do you think we can?
I think you could do it, because they're both related, I think you could do it with one motion.
Okay. So I would hear a motion to, we'll get to you. I would hear, for the purposes of discussion, I would entertain a motion to accept the Shire House grant and to approve the updated policies.
So moved.
Second? All right. Any questions or discussion from the board? Now, any questions or discussion from the audience? Nancy?
There's quite a bit of information in the packet. Did I read correctly that this is a $2.3 million project?
I believe that is correct.
But that isn't all just for renovation, is it?
I'll have to ask Kate about that one. I don't know if that's just, I don't know if that's also acquisition cost as well as the renovation.
I don't have the budget.
Well,
Yeah.
I think they paid just over $400,000. I'm just wondering, I can't imagine it would be $1.9 million to renovate it, so I wondered what would happen to the rest of the money. Once the grants go through the town office, do you step back, Shannon, or are you still involved?
I'm still involved in the sense that, so basically I oversee the funds that come from the state. They come to the town first, and then Shires essentially has to submit all of their invoices and their project narrative, and I have to approve that before any funds can be allocated to the project.
So you're not going to, the way I read it, it sounded like you're going to be putting some reports together?
Well, reports, there are regular reports as part of the grant agreement, so you have to have a project updates as you go along.
I guess my question is, once the money goes through the town to Shires and the other two groups, do you step back? Because if you still need to stay involved working on the process, how does our town budget get reimbursed? Because we've been told some of the people may come from around the state or outside the state. That was one question I had.
I don't understand your question. This isn't, our town budget is not related to this project. These are federal funds through Housing and Urban Development that come to the state, and then they come to the town for specific projects.
I understand that, but we in Bennington pay you in the town office. If you have to stay involved in the project long-term to be doing grants or to, not grants, to be doing reports to follow up, it sounded like there was quarterly work you'd have to do. We should be getting reimbursed for that. Because like I said, it won't just be Bennington residents who can stay there. What qualifications do the people from Mission City Church need to work at the Recovery House, and will they get paid?
Nancy, I'm sorry, that question isn't related to any of the questions at hand.
Thank you.
Right now, that question is not related to the grant nor the policies that
Well, if
we're
you look at
discussing.
it, there's a lot of money on there, and I think it was like 300.
Nancy, we're a
Nancy,
pass-through
the
for the
subject we're allowed to
grants.
talk to about this evening are the grant
This is
and
part of the grant
policies.
when you look under management for like $250,000. I just didn't know what that was for. On the fourth box down where you
It's
have
not
those
related,
four
Nancy.
long rows.
It's not related.
And last, when we first heard about this as citizens a couple of years ago, You had to vote to get a $1 million grant to be split between this property and the one across from the rec center, when a lot of citizens wanted to discuss that location. Where's that other $500,000 been for the property across from the rec center?
That project is also proceeding.
So
But if I
that,
could-
We don't have an executed grant agreement yet.
so that $500,000 is sitting
is not
probably
really-
waiting.
It's been awarded to the project, but the grant agreement hasn't been executed
Okay,
yet.
all right, thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else from the public? We ready to vote? All right, all in favor of accepting the Squire House grant and approving the updated policies, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tom, I have the documents that I'll circulate for your signature.
All right, next up, we have Jonas Spivak to discuss the Vermont Old Cemetery Association donation.
You may recall that due to some unfortunate events in the fall of 2023, we had a vandalism event at our village cemetery. It's one of the oldest cemeteries in our community. It has veterans from, I used to say every war, but I'm not sure there were any veterans from the War of 1812 there. But it's a significant cemetery for our community. And when it got struck, happily, we got in contact with Tom Giffen from the Vermont Old Cemetery Association. He, along with dozens of other volunteers from communities from around Vermont and New York, came and did a tremendous job restoring stones that had been knocked over. This was a two-part process. The initial event, we reset approximately 200 headstones that had been overturned. In addition to that, a number of headstones had been fairly significantly damaged or broken. And for that, we did a follow-up second event where we were fixing gravestones that had been broken. And we even went far beyond those that had been damaged in that event last fall. Because of the number of volunteers we had from the community and from the Vermont Old Cemetery Association, we were able to fix literally dozens and dozens of additional stones. I cannot emphasize enough how much, not just the labor of volunteers from the Vermont Old Cemeteries Association gave to our community, but also the expertise on how to deal with these stones and treat them properly. They were incredibly valued. They do all of this for free. Last fall, I gave a presentation and let you know that they were doing their biannual fundraising campaign, and I suggested that as budget season approached, we should consider a donation to the Vermont Old Cemetery Association, and that is what is before you today. So if you have any questions, but basically this is a thank you to this organization, which is a grassroots nonprofit organization, which has literally donated hundreds of hours of their time and expertise in helping our community restore the village cemetery. And I don't know if you have any questions, it's pretty straightforward. And we had suggested a donation of $500 to this organization for their efforts.
Yeah, I think to start, I would look for a motion to donate the $500 to the Vermont Old Cemetery Association.
Seconded for purposes of discussion.
All right. Any questions from the board?
I don't really have a question. I was just wondering, I'm 99% sure the public should know the cemetery that you're speaking of is on Morgan Street.
That is correct.
Okay,
It's
I
the
just
Village
wanted to
Cemetery on Morgan Street. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nancy?
Is the select board or town office able to come up with some type of a policy so that the public knows if this were to happen again, whoever's involved, they would know ahead of time what they would get fined? Because it's awful to see some of these old cemeteries in Vermont where people just go in and destroy them. So could we do something so people would know ahead of time, if you get caught, you're going to be paying $3,000, or just to deter this from happening?
Well, I wouldn't say that we would need a policy to do that. We identified some of the individuals that were involved, and I'm looking at Jonah just to give me a nod to say.
Well, I'm going to, from the original event, which was the larger event, something like 200 stones were overturned. We did not have a resolution on that, but the dollar amount of damages was considerable. It would be a very large amount and would be a very serious crime. Unfortunately, what Stuart's referring to is we did have a repeat offense this past spring. I believe it was in end of April or early May. And here's something that was really different this time around. Because of the awareness that we got after this horrible shock we got in the fall, within 2 hours, we had the people responsible, I don't want to quite say in custody. I think the cases are still pending, but I think I can say that it involved minors, so there's not a lot of information we can give out. But they have faced serious consequences. I can tell you at least for the one case I'm aware of, but I really can't say more than that because there were minors involved. And I would say that the best protection for our cemeteries is public awareness. And that was one, not a happy result, but one result of that initial last fall's event. People are watching very carefully, and we do have security cameras there now as well.
I would say, too, probably the laws that we already have on the books regarding vandalism and destruction of private property and so forth.
I was just going to say
covered in that.
Yeah, to your point, it's a crime, and I would hope that to the ability of the police department and others involved, obviously minors involved, that's a different scenario, but it certainly has been identified as crimes were committed.
So we couldn't have a resolution, it would just have to be the police department?
Well, it's actually the court system that determines whether or not fines can be laid out or whatever sentence might be handed down. All we can do is attempt to catch the perpetrators, present them to the state's attorney's office, and then they're into the court system. And it's the court that decides how they're done.
All right, thanks.
Anything else from the public? All right, let's vote. All those in favor of allocating a $500 donation to express our gratitude for the help in restoring our cemetery, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonah.
All right, which brings us to the manager's report.
Thank you. I don't have any action items tonight. Just a couple of updates on some of the projects that are happening here in town. We have begun the process of renovating the blacksmith shop at 215 South Street on the second floor to be able to move some of our offices, specifically accounting and human resources, to that building to free up some additional space in the town offices so that employees who require privacy can stop sharing offices and be able to do their jobs accordingly. The monies that are being used to do this, which is in the $50,000 range, the lion's share of the cost is to upgrade the electrical utilities into the building, which has not been upgraded since we have been using the building specifically for the BBC offices. We also rented out offices on the second floor at one time, but we're upgrading the service to handle the additional IT and electrical services that will be required there. Those funds are coming out of excess funds that are within our budget this year so that we were able to do this project, and we are using mostly town staff to do the work that we can do. Obviously, professional licensed electricians will be utilized for the electrical upgrades. In the second instance, we've talked a little bit about this. The police department has identified the need for a impound area, and it's been a long time need that we have had. and they've also asked for a potential temporary kennel area. We have seen problems develop with dogs this year, and even if we take control of the dogs, either by select board order or otherwise, we don't have any place to house them because most of the kennels are either full, Second Chance is full, so we have no place to house them, and this would give us an opportunity to actually take those dogs into our control until we can relocate them safely. That impound area, we are looking at the property at Orchard Road, which is the former highway garage property across from Molly Stark School. Here again, we are just now developing the proposal, the costs, so we don't anticipate that we will begin that project this construction season, but it is one that we find that we have a need for, and we hope to move forward very soon. Members of the Select Board have also suggested we look to create a reception area in the town offices just off the lobby, and that is a project we're also now just investigating to see what kind of space is available. So those are the projects that we're working on within the town to handle town employees and town problems. And the last thing is I've been working with the folks from the Hometown Heroes Banner Program. We had hoped to have them on the agenda this evening, but some issues came up that were beyond their control and they could not attend. So they will be here next meeting, February 26th, to present their application for the Hometown Heroes Banner Program. I received their proposal today. It is very well thought out. It is very detailed. And I suspect that this program will be approved by the board, I anticipate. And they hope to be able to begin to move forward so that we have something in place by Memorial Day. So I congratulate the efforts of Dee Colte, who is their main contact. She's done a great job, and we look forward to having them here next time.
Well, thank you. That flows quite nicely into our next agenda item, which is upcoming agendas. Yes. So we
Morning question. It's an agenda item. Morning question.
Make it quick, Sam, please.
Sam Rustino, Bennington, Vermont. As Better Bennington Corporation is being relocated, Stark Street.
Sam, be careful, please. That's not true.
It was in the packet.
That's not true.
No, they're not being relocated.
That's not what the packet told you, Sam. Their storage a partial storage room is being relocated to the Stark Street facility. BBC offices are not moving. I did not want bad information to get out to the public. Thank you.
Oh, I'm a little confused with where is BBC going to be relocated then? Hopefully it's somewhere in the public's eye.
They're not moving. The BBC is not moving, Sam.
Okay,
Yep.
Sorry. I stand corrected.
That's okay. Also at the next meeting, I believe we'll be discussing the road name changes.
Yep.
Squaw Hill and Gypsy Lane. Anything else anyone has?
I don't have anything else either.
Okay. All right, any other business? Go.
Yeah, I saw it in the newspaper, and I just wanted to make sure that there was another opportunity for people to find out. There's a really fun program going on at the community market this Saturday from 1 to 4. It's some sort of community art installation with the help of a professional artist, which made me feel really much better. So it won't be a free-for-all. But anyway, it's open to anyone. There's going to be all kinds of art supplies. You don't need to bring anything. You just need to show up and with your creative juices flowing. So it's this Saturday from 1 to 4 at the community market.
Nothing from me, Tom.
Okay. I'd just like to say that I did speak with Cassie this morning, and she is getting requests for absentee ballots already, and I would encourage anyone, if there's any possibility you will not be able to vote on town meeting day, to go ahead and request your absentee ballot. If it turns out you can vote in person, you can just bring that with you and still vote in person just like normal. But we need as many people to vote as possible to make this a functioning democracy. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Ayes have it. Thanks very much. Have a great evening.